Oklahoma State ended 2018 with an upset win over Missouri. Can they carry that momentum into 2019? Find out here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State was a very inconsistent team in 2018. After starting off the season 4-1, rising as high as number 15 in the country, the Cowboys dropped 2 straight before beating number 6 Texas 38-35. Then they dropped 2 more games and then upset number 7 West Virginia. They dropped their season finale to TCU and then upset number 24 Missouri in the Liberty Bowl to finish 7-6 on the year. All in all, Oklahoma State had 4 losses by just 1 possession, so a 7-win season could very well have been a double-digit win season for Mike Gundy and the Cowboys. But nonetheless, they did get that upset win over Missouri and carry some momentum into 2019, and they are hoping that sticks with them, especially now that they will have a brand new quarterback situation entering this season. Will it be Spencer Sanders, the redshirt freshman, or will it be the senior transfer in Dru Brown from Hawaii? We believe it will be Spencer Sanders. We believe that's the best fit for the Cowboys in 2019. But whoever it is, that quarterback will be the first quarterback to start at Oklahoma State without ever throwing a pass in the program since 2012. Pretty unbelievable stat there. And also, whoever lands that starting quarterback job will have a great cast surrounding him. They will have Chuba Hubbard, the running back that was behind Justice Hill last year, but still rushed for over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. And they will have arguably the best wide receiver in the entire Big 12, and Tylan Wallace, who had over 1,400 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns last year. So this Oklahoma State offense, once they find their quarterback, could be even better than they were in 2018. Defensively, they returned 5 starters from a unit that allowed 32.5 points per game, which was their worst mark since 2014, when they allowed 31.2 points per game. So they're going to need some drastic changes on the defensive side of the ball. And I believe Malcolm Rodriguez, the safety, will be the strength and the leader for this Oklahoma State defense. I think the secondary is going to be the key for the Cowboys in 2019. Their linebacking core, not too bad either, but watch out for their secondary more than anything. And their secondary could get a tough test right off the bat in Week 1, August 30th, on the road against Oregon State. Now, the Beavers, of course, not your perennial powerhouse in the Power 5, had a pretty rough season last year under Jonathan Smith, just going 2-10. But the Beavers will be much more improved in 2019. Now, we don't have them improving in the win total. We actually have them taking a step back because of the difficult schedule that they face. But the Beavers return Jake Luton at quarterback, one that has continuously improved every year that he's been the starter. He has Jamar Jefferson at running back and a crew of wide receivers that certainly does not get enough attention and enough respect. If Luton and those wide receivers are clicking on all cylinders, this could be a very tough game for the Oklahoma State defense. But in the end, I think the Cowboys have too much leadership. I think they are too much of a veteran team. Certainly have the veteran head coach in Mike Gundy. I think they go on the road and beat Oregon State, who's hungry to get a win over a Power 5 opponent. They just can't get the job done. Expected to be close on this Friday night, but Oklahoma State gets the win over the Beavers. And they start off the season 3-0. We think they beat McNeese State and go on the road and beat Tulsa. Obviously a team that can put up some points and that we do expect to improve in 2019, but not enough to beat the Cowboys, even though they do get to host them. They then kick off Big 12 play on the road against Texas. And as we all know, and as we mentioned, Oklahoma State upset the 6th-ranked Longhorns last year 38-35 at Boone Pickens Stadium, which I believe is one of the toughest places to play in the entire Big 12. It should also be noted that Oklahoma State has won 4 straight over Texas. Won the last time here in Austin, beating the Longhorns. I believe it was just 13-10 in overtime. 3 of those past 4 victories over Texas have come by just a field goal. So some great matchups between the Cowboys and the Longhorns. Expect another good one here, but this Texas team could be even better than they were in 2018. Going on the road to Austin, Tom Herman is making it known that that is going to be a difficult place to play, not just in the Big 12, but in the entire country. I love Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. I love his crew of wide receivers. Tylan Wallace versus Colin Johnson at the wide receiver position in this game is going to be phenomenal to watch. Could have a lot of points scored in this one, much like we had last year, but Texas will snap that 4-game losing streak to the Cowboys, handing Oklahoma State their first loss on the season. They then return home, though, to face off against Kansas State. And last year, Oklahoma State's offense struggled mightily in this game. When they faced off against Kansas State in Manhattan, they fell 31-12 to make it 2 straight losses to the Wildcats. But this year, Kansas State going under some changes, much like a lot of the Big 12, 40% to be exact, of the Big 12 will be going through changes. They bring in Chris Kleiman, the head coach, former head coach from North Dakota State, where he won 4 national titles with the Bison. And I think he inherits, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I think he inherits the best situation in Manhattan. Out of all the brand new head coaches, I think he inherits the most talent and the most stability with the Wildcats. But he is going to struggle in year 1 with Kansas State. They might not even go bowling. Expect Kansas State to hang with the Cowboys for about the first half, maybe even midway through the third quarter. Oklahoma State pulls away, though, snaps that 2-game losing streak to Kansas State, and gets a quality home win to start off, much like they were last year, 4-1 on the season. But can they be consistent, unlike they were able to do in 2018? They go back on the road to face off against Texas Tech. Keep this in mind, last year at home against the Red Raiders at Boone Pickens Stadium, the Cowboys lost to Texas Tech 41-17. That was one of the worst offensive performances paired up with that Kansas State game from Oklahoma State in 2018. This year they go to Lubbock. They have to go face off against Texas Tech on the road. Alan Bowman, assuming he can stay healthy, will be one of the toughest quarterbacks to stop in the entire Big 12. He was last year before he missed the final 3 games of the season. So if he stays healthy, this Texas Tech offense will not see a major drop-off in production like many would expect after they lose Cliff Kingsbury at head coach. Matt Wells comes in here. The offense stays the same, maybe even does better in 2019. The defense will absolutely improve. And with this game being on the road, I don't like this matchup for Oklahoma State, especially after losing by, 24 last year to the Red Raiders. I think they fall on the road, and they are 4-2. Entering their first bye week, and that's still not a bad mark. 2 wins away from bowl eligibility. Schedule has been fairly favorable, and if you look at that, 3 of their first 4 games of the season are on the road, so a very difficult slate for them to kick off the season. So 4-2 coming out of that first half of the season, not too bad. They get that bye week going on to a game against Baylor at home, and last year they fell to the Bears on the road 35-31, an absolute thriller. Baylor will be even better than they were in 2018. And I can't say the same for Oklahoma State. I think last year's Oklahoma State team was better than they will be in 2019. But once again, you don't want to doubt Mike Gundy. So even though I think this team is less talented, they are still going to be a threat against any team, much like Texas and West Virginia found out the hard way in 2018. This year against Baylor, though, at home, I think they snag a win. I think they pull off an upset against the Bears, a team that I'm very high on and one that I think could be a dark horse in the Big 12 in 2019. I love Charlie Brewer. I think this is the best defense Matt Rule has had since he arrived in Waco. But Baylor on the road against Oklahoma State, especially coming off this week of rest here, this bye week, I think they beat the Bears. And now they are 5-2 on the season. They then go on the road, though, to face off against Iowa State. And they lost in an absolute thriller last year, 48-42 to the Cyclones in Boone Pickens Stadium at Oklahoma State. This year, Iowa State, even better than they were in 2018. No doubt in my mind. 16 returning starters, even though they lose David Montgomery at running back, even though they lose Akeem Butler, their top wide receiver. They bring back a handful of wide receivers, including Deshaunte Jones and LaMichael Petway, the transfer from Arkansas. Brock Purdy is absolutely the real deal at quarterback, and this defense will once again be dominant under Matt Campbell. Ames, not an easy place to play. As I've stated before, I've said that's where dreams go to die. And Oklahoma State found that out many years ago, back in 2011. Their national title hopes dashed when they fell on the road against Iowa State. They fall once again to the Cyclones here, a team that could very well contend for the Big 12 title. They then come back home, though, to face off against TCU. And as we mentioned, they fell to TCU in the season finale last year, 31-24. And, of course, that didn't mean anything major for Oklahoma State. They still got to go bowling. That game clinched bowl eligibility for the Horned Frogs. But now they get to host TCU this year, and I think they snag a win over the Horned Frogs. I think TCU is a team that will bounce back in a big way in 2019. Now, I'm not saying college football playoff big way, but maybe that Big 12 dark horse, maybe win 8 or 9 games. You never want to doubt Gary Patterson. And I think this defense will certainly improve under Gary Patterson once again in 2019. And once they find themselves a quarterback, the offense will certainly be clicking on all cylinders because they have tons of talent, including another star wide receiver in Jalen Reagor. So to see him going up against Tylan Wallace will once again be very fun in Big 12 play. But to kick off November, I think they beat TCU. I like that this game is at home. I think this Oklahoma State defense continues to improve every single week. They get to shut down this TCU offense, especially if they shut down their running game. I don't have as much faith in their quarterback situation. Oklahoma State beats the Horned Frogs. They then get their last bye week of the season, so they had 3 games in between there, and now they have their final stretch, 2 of their final 3 games at home, and after that bye week, they face off against Kansas, and I don't see Kansas winning many games in 2019. I know Les Miles comes in, he's been the hot ticket, he's been the guy that's been all over the media, and I think he is a phenomenal hire for the Jayhawks in Lawrence. I've said that. We were at Memorial Stadium in Lawrence, and I praised that hire for Les Miles. I just don't think that this is the year that he's going to break through and show major improvement for the Jayhawks. I think they can be next year. Nonetheless, Oklahoma State still has to watch out for them. They're going to be much more competitive in 2019, especially with Puka Williams at running back. But coming off this week of rest, hosting this game against the Jayhawks, I just don't see Kansas coming on the road and beating the Cowboys. I think Oklahoma State wins this game fairly handily and gets a win over Kansas. They then face off against another brand new head coach, though, in the Big 12, like we mentioned, that 40%, on the road against West Virginia. And last year, Oklahoma State stunned the Mountaineers, pretty much prevented them from making the college football playoff, or at least ended their hopes. Of course, we all know West Virginia later fell to Oklahoma in an absolute thriller. But this West Virginia team is nothing like we saw last year. They lose Will Greer. They lose a lot of their wide receivers. They lose 3 of their top 6 tacklers from 2018, and they lose a lot of offensive linemen. So this West Virginia team, now led under Neil Brown, the former head coach at Troy, going through some major changes. So after all of that, you would assume that this would be almost a surefire victory for the Cowboys. Not so fast. West Virginia brings in Austin Kendall, the transfer quarterback from Oklahoma. They bring back Kennedy McCoy, the senior running back, going up against a rushing defense in Oklahoma State that allowed 185 rushing yards per game last year. Even though Oklahoma State won that game, I think they fought last year. I think they fall to West Virginia here because it's on the road. I think this is a signature win for Neil Brown and his crew, and look what's coming after that West Virginia game. A date against Oklahoma. I think they are overlooking the Mountaineers, a team that I don't expect much out of in 2019, but do expect to be very competitive in Neil Brown's first year. They get upset on the road by the Mountaineers. A clutch win by Neil Brown, and then close out the season against Oklahoma in a rivalry game, last year falling by just 1 point to the Sooners, failing on that 2-point conversion, nearly pulling off a major upset and potentially ruining the Sooners' college football playoff hopes. They weren't able to get the job done last year, and they will not be able to get the job done this year. I do not think Oklahoma will be as good statistically this year, but they are still the team to beat in the Big 12. Bringing in another transfer quarterback in Jalen Hurts will be very difficult to stop for any defense. Their rushing game with Trey Sermon and Kennedy Brooks is going to be extremely tough to stop as well. And their defense should improve in year 3 under Lincoln Riley. Even though Oklahoma State gets to host this game, expect this game to be close. Most rivalry games are. You can never doubt a team in a rivalry game. So expect this game to be close, much like it was last year. But Oklahoma gets the win on the road to once again make a Big 12 title appearance and keep their college football playoff hopes alive. Oklahoma State falls to their rivals yet again to finish the season 7-5. And I know that is a fairly respectable record for the Cowboys in 2019. I think coming off a 7-6 season last year, going 6-6 in the regular season, it's a game improvement, a chance at 8 wins if they can win their bowl game, going in the right direction with Mike Gundy in this Cowboys squad. But I know for Oklahoma State fans, they expect to be in the Big 12 title hunt year in and year out. And 7-5 is just not going to cut it. But nonetheless, improvement from a somewhat disappointing 2018. Maybe they snag an upset somewhere along the way. Maybe they pull off that West Virginia win. Maybe they pull off a win against Texas Tech to maybe win 8 or 9 regular season games. You never want to doubt Mike Gundy. But I like 7-5 for the Cowboys in 2019. Once again, another job well done. So guys, as always, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert, and go check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com. Sign up for our newsletter and sign up for our expert picks. For just $30, you will receive every single one of our 2019 college football spread picks, including the postseason. And I can promise you that is a deal you do not want to pass up. So join our team, sign up today only at thegridironexpert.com. And guys, as always, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.